where guys just tighten their belt up and say, you know what, let's go to work. We just got to get better. Yeah. We got to play harder. We got to play smarter. Instead of just, where's the grass greener? I'm going to go there and win a championship.
Interview 00 Pro EU Pro 0.811. At its best, basketball is more than just a sport. It's a contest of intellect, accuracy, and character. The game was all about analyzing defenses, making the ideal pass, and surviving the most formidable opponents for one of the NBA's most talented and intelligent point guards, John Stockton. Who, though, would Stockton say presented his biggest obstacles? We're going to focus on 6 guys today that consistently put Stockton's ability, attitude, and will to the test. Washington, Dwayne. One unexpected early challenger was Dwayne Washington. Prior to John Stockton beginning one of his first real clashes with NBA superstars was against Dwayne Pearl Washington, a player whose on-court inventiveness astounded opponents and enthralled spectators. Pearl was a powerhouse. He improvised on stage, employing dazzling spins and surprising dribbles to freeze opponents. He played basketball like a jazz pianist. He was, Stockton said, a revelation. You had never seen anything like what Pearl brought to you before. You couldn't depend on your strategy. He ensured that you had to change or face embarrassment. The U.S. Olympic trials in 1984 served as a testing ground for their encounter. A meticulous and disciplined player, Stockton had to contend with Pearl's shake-and-bake style. Traditional defensive fundamentals were upset by a quick fake here and an unguardable layup there. Stockton was rocked by this experience, which made him depend not just on his physical prowess, but also on his ability to predict his opponent's next move. Later, Stockton admitted that his instincts were improved by early experience guarding a talent like Pearl. He possessed substance despite his flamboyance. I needed to maintain my concentration on every possession since he only needed a single second of uncertainty to score. Sadly, Pearl's professional career didn't have the same luster as his time at Syracuse. However, there was no denying his impact on the young Stockton. Guarding a talented player wasn't the only reason to face Pearl. It was a crash course in flexibility. Stockton acknowledged that he helped me learn how to maintain discipline while still adapting to unforeseen circumstances. I used that ability throughout my career to deal with guys who were always changing the basketball rules. Pearl left an imprint that guarantees Stockton gained the mental acuity necessary to handle more difficult tasks in the future. Magic Johnson, the ultimate problem solver on Showtime. Stockton was not the only one who struggled with magic. Every point guard had nightmares when he was playing, standing at 69 with a fleeting divine glimpse. Magic was like a chess game in motion. For Stockton, dealing with magic was more than simply a sport. It was a battle of the mind. No one else could see what he saw. Even in an interview, Stockton stated that he had already adapted before you made a move. He was incredibly versatile due to his size. He could bury picture-perfect passes for dunks or led the fast break. It was like attempting to halt a wave of titles when you were playing against him. Stockton remembered their postseason struggles as both thrilling and draining. You had to be 2 steps ahead when using magic. Yes, protect him, but also think about what he would do for his comrades. He has the ability to mentally as well as physically break you. During the Jazz-Lakers series, one game in particular sticks out. Stockton gave it his all while guarding Magic, arguing passes, and working hard on defense. Nevertheless, Magic's remarkable court vision allowed him to execute move after move and lead the Lakers to victory. Stockton acknowledged that Magic made him feel his best. He showed me the true meaning of team leadership. Magic's influence on the game was always evident, even if he didn't score a single point. They had a great deal of regard for each other, even though they had quite different personalities. Magic's Hollywood charm and Stockton's subdued focus. Off the court, Stockton frequently described Magic as the best floor general, offering an example of what effective leadership should entail. Kevin Johnson is a dynamo of explosives. If you were overcome with court vision and magic, Kevin Johnson hit you like a freight train. KJ wasn't merely fast. He was tearing through defenses at full speed, leaving everyone behind. Stockton had to get ready for an all-out sprint in order to guard KJ. You couldn't breathe with him. You had, in an interview, Stockton stated, to remain locked in every second. KJ rendered the defense powerless. Kevin didn't give Stockton a chance to get into his typical flow, whether it was through sky-high dunks in traffic or lightning-fast throws to his son's teammates. Stockton thought back on those conflicts. Attempting to stop lightning was like that. Kevin was 3 steps ahead of you the instant you hesitated. In a Jazz vs. Suns game in the early 1990s, Kevin danced past Utah's defense to lead to a resounding victory in one of their most intense encounters. Performance. Stockton's defensive IQ increased as a result of such clashes. You had to become familiar with his habits and how he stretched defenses and created space with his speed. In an interview with the Salt Lake Tribune, Stockton acknowledged that he would reveal something fresh even when you thought you had him figured out. Even though they didn't interact as much in their latter careers, Stockton still thought highly of KJ. Stockton clarified that Kevin was meticulous in addition to being brave. He blended great basketball knowledge with athleticism, which is what made him extremely deadly. Gary Payton, the nightmare of Gary Payton trash talking. In every aspect, Gary Payton was a nightmare for Stockton, referred to as his smothering defense glove. Payton stopped you more than just physically. He tried to distract you with every possession by attacking your psyche with constant trash talk. Even Stockton admitted it in an interview. Gary was unrelenting with his words and his body. You weren't. You were merely playing basketball and getting by. Their fights are legendary, particularly those that took place during the Jazz and Sonics playoff games in the 1990s. Stockton, who is typically cool under pressure, had to step up his game to remain effective against Ton's rugged, in-your-face defense. Gary enjoyed annoying you and interfering with your concentration. His ability to step in front of plays before you even made them was the true issue, though. Everything Stockton described made sense to him. Ton's aptitude for foreseeing and interfering with plays was unparalleled, giving the impression that he was everywhere at once. Payton was more than a defensive pest, though. In addition, he had exceptional offensive abilities and was a ferocious competitor. Managing Payton's trash talk was as difficult as protecting him, Stockton acknowledged. He carried that grudge as if he were taking it personally, rather than merely testing your abilities. Stockton remembered times when teammates were shaken by Payton's mental battle. Stockton, however, always admired the Sonics guard's unflinching will to succeed. Years later, Stockton still looks back on those fights with Payton with admiration, admitting that they helped him become the wonderful man he is today. Every moment you were on the court, Gary held you accountable. You were unable to fall asleep, not even for a brief moment. Competition Isaiah Thomas is driven by conflict and respect. Isaiah Thomas was the player with whom Stockton had the most complex connection. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, their conflicts involved more than just skill. When Thomas was a chess master on the court, Isaiah, he was the type of player who could outthink you, even when you thought you had him figured out. Whether it was a no-look pass that perfect fence or a clutch shot late in the fourth quarter, Thomas had the killer instinct that Stockton knew was rare. These matchups always felt personal, driven by competitive, active egos that fed into the Pistons-Jazz rivalry. Stockton didn't shy away from the fact that the tension between them was revealed. In one interview, Stockton acknowledged that protecting Isaiah involved more than just preventing him from doing anything. It was regarding outwitting him. "I'm going to win no matter what it takes," was his mentality, and it gave him an advantage. He was therefore challenging to play against. Stockton always respected Isaiah as one of the hardest opponents he had ever faced, even though they were at odds on the court. If you let your guard down for even a moment, he could make you look foolish. You are forced to improve by that type of player. Both players were eventually able to reflect on their fierce conflicts with appreciation, admitting that their rivalry forced them to reach new heights. Clyde Drexler's strength and adaptability on the court. Stockton frequently faced off against other top point guards, but Clyde Drexler was unique. Drexler was a force of nature who could dominate a game from wherever on the court and was one of the most adaptable players of his time. Stockton talked about Drexler's skill throughout their games against the Jazz Blazers. Clyde was capable of anything: attack, defend, shoot, and pass. You had no idea where he would injure you. Drexler avoided becoming overly dramato. He moves similarly to certain guards, yet he was deadly and fluid, making every defender stay locked in for the entire 48 minutes. He is one of those players that defies easy categorization. On both offense and defense, you have to be prepared for everything, Stockton said. Drexler was one of the most difficult players to prepare for because of his degree of surprise. Drexler's ability to boost the Blazers in crucial situations was what made the match even more dramatic. Stockton remembered games in which every player's possession appeared to pass through Drexler, and he always made the right choice somehow. Stats weren't all that interested in him. He put his entire squad in jeopardy. Stockton always admired Drexler for his ability to dominate from the backcourt to the paint, despite the fact that his primary responsibility was to protect smaller and faster opponents. He stood out due to his strength, speed, and game-mindedness. Stockton was aware that competing against Drexler required mental toughness in addition to competence. In retrospect, Stockton acknowledges that his career was influenced by players like Drexler just as much as by the great point guards. The toughest guys weren't just tough, according to John Stockton. His own greatness was sparked by them. In their own ways, both games forced Stockton to think more quickly and adjust to the constantly changing basketball chessboard. And Stockton saw every obstacle as an opportunity to develop and establish himself as one of the NBA's best players. That concludes this one. I'll see you in the next one. Remember to hit the subscribe button